Morning, everybody. This is the ACT Math Prep Tips. And one thing I want to start with is that the math has a bunch of different question types. I know you went over this with the introduction, but what I want you to focus in on is the fact that there's a percentage associated with the number of questions. So as you get close on time and you're trying to focus on your preparation, look at what's going to give you a better return on investment. You know, if you're getting close to the exam and you're equally, need help in coordinate geometry and trig, where should you focus? Obviously, focus on the coordinate geometry. It's worth twice as much as far as questions. There's more questions. It's going to give you more points. That doesn't mean forget about trig. You certainly want to spend time, but use this breakdown when it comes to where should I focus my time. Looking at plane geometry and pre-algebra, that's almost half the test. So therefore, make sure you really understand those sections. Now, each of those questions has a range from easy to challenging. For a test tip, if you get to a question and you can't answer it, don't think, well, geez, I can't do this because it's just going to get harder from here. No, there really isn't any order. They may start with the hard ones. They may start with the easy ones. They may go hard, easy, medium. You don't know. So just relax, prepare, and go through a certain process when it comes to taking this test and answering the questions. The process for taking the test in general is start from question 1 and go through the test. Now that may seem obvious, but remember, you have roughly an average of a minute per question. So just go through. If you can answer a question less than 30 seconds, do that. Go through and answer all the easy ones first. You don't want to run out of time with forgetting points on the board. You want to solve all the easy ones and get all the points you can. This also gives you more time down the road for more complex problems. Now, some more tips that you really need to look at is know your calculator. You're allowed to use those TIs. If you have one, know how to use it. Know that it does more than add, subtract, multiply, and divide. It has a lot of tools on it. The ACT, the College Board know this, and they expect you to be able to utilize that calculator. That being said, don't overuse your calculator. Don't think it's the holy grail and just because you hold it in your hand, it's going to solve all your problems. Like Kenny Rogers says, you got to know when to hold it and know when to, walk away. Also, if there's no figure, draw one. Visualize what's going on, what's known, what are they asking for. Answer all the questions. Obviously, like you went over in the introduction, you don't get penalized. Pace yourself. That's very important. Once again, 1 minute per question. You might be able to save some of that time, but you got to know that. How do you know that? You need to practice. You need to be able to know when it's a little tough, I need to move on. Now, the process in solving the questions, and notice I say solve the question. I don't say how to solve it. I just say solve it. You want to get the answer correct. The math department is really, really good. They teach you how to do things, why things are. The ACT doesn't care the why. They don't care if you know how to solve the problem. They just want to see, can you get it correct? So go through a certain process. Back solve. It's a multiple choice test. All the answers are right there. Can you just plug and chug and get the right answer and move on? Can you pick numbers to help factor things out or simplify? The third way would be use the traditional math. Use what Kowalski and Swinnerton taught you. But wait, because that usually takes longer. Those methods usually take longer. And then finally, strategically guess. That doesn't mean close your eyes and just bubble in. It means, you might be able to get it down to 2 possible answers. Well, what are you feeling at that point? So have an idea. Look for red flags. If there's one answer that's an order of magnitude bigger than the other 3, that's usually a trap. They usually, think, oh, these students are going to pick this because it stands out. Usually that's not the right answer. The big thing is to practice the timing. When to move on to the next method. Once again, certain amount of time. So that goes into, yes, you guessed it, practice. Practice under actual test conditions. You know, you want to not be playing Fortnite while you work math problems, or playing on Snapchat or the interwebs or anything else you may be doing. You want to practice sitting at a table just doing math with no music. You need to practice because you need to know when to use a calculator. You look at a question like this, which is a graph of y equals negative quantity x minus 2 squared. And so you may be, I know, my calculator can graph. Well, you know, it takes time to do that. How long does it take you to type that in? Whereas if you do a little preparation, you know that, well, it's a square, so therefore I'm dealing with a parabola. And if I look at this table, I can say, well, it's the quantity is negative, so it's reflected around the x-axis, and it's minus 2, so it's shifted to the right. So in less than 10 seconds, you realize the answer to this is H. So if you can type in your calculator faster than you can think about this table, certainly use a calculator. But, you know, if you think about the table, you can answer it less than 10 seconds, which gives you 50 seconds to use on a harder problem. Here's where you also try to think, what do I need to do with my calculator? When you see something, where do the two equations meet? You can certainly simplify these, put these together, plug and chug. But what you need to do is look at it and say, is this, you know, worth my time plugging and chugging? I know they give me the right answers, but is it quicker for me to type into the calculator? And this is when I'm talking about picking a number. If you see something, if x is not equal to 2 or negative 2, what is equivalent to this quantity? And a lot of people will start factoring and doing other things. Well, you know, I want to pick a number. It tells me I can't use 2 or negative 2 because you can see that would make the bottom go to 0 and only Mr. Kowalski can divide by 0, but we can't. So I pick a number, 0. So take 0, plug it into everything, and you're going to see that whole quantity equals negative 1. So then go to your answers, start plugging 0 into x's, and see which one equals negative 1. You know, within 10 seconds, you see that's E, right? 0 minus 2 over 0 plus 2 equals negative 1. So there's time. Factoring is really nice, but it takes a lot of time. Know the quadratic formula, understand the discriminant, understand how to take an equation they give you and put it into the general quadratic equation. Every year there's questions. What is the sum of the roots? What are the product of the roots? You can certainly find them by factoring and then adding them for the sum or multiplying to get the product. But if you put it in the general equation, the sum of the roots is found by negative b over a. So once again, within 15 seconds, you can find the sum of a root of a quadratic equation. Same thing about product of the roots, c over a. Put it into the general equation, and then once again, you're going to get the product of the roots, saving your time for a more complex problem or a problem you didn't really prepare for. But that goes once again into practice. I can't talk about that enough. Math isn't a subject you can cram for the night before. It isn't one of those subjects where you can read and say, I got it. It isn't one of those subjects where you can watch videos. Videos certainly help. Khan Academy helps. It helps with your homework. It helps with stuff like this where you get stuck. But, nothing beats sitting down and practicing. Friday nights, Birchfield doesn't say, yeah, Jordan, just run along the sidelines and we'll see what happens. If you're open, we'll see if we can get you the ball or not. That's not what happens. You football players, you soccer players, you swim team, bowling, everybody, you spend hours and hours practicing so you can actually perform when it comes to game time. So think about that and actually practice your math. prepare for game time, that ACT. You know, it's a very, very important test. You know, some final reminders when you're practicing. You know how to translate words into math. When these words say, you know, what is the difference? What are they really saying? Know what number properties are. Understand your math relationships. Know your triangles, your trig. What's your 30, 60, 90 triangle? Find common shapes, and like I said, recognize red flags. If you need help, come see Mr. Krieger. You know, I'm sure any of the math teachers will help you. Good luck, and go Hawks.